you have a show where right now,
Give the man an Emmy already.
What about global warming, inflation, woke, the Supreme Court, guns?
We have a war on drugs.
Right.
We can't get rid of them, Bill.
Right.
They're still coming across the border.
Well, thank God for that. But I just want to show you some pictures to reminisce. Here's us this last year in Hawaii after you had given up pot. You know, you look okay, but not ecstatic. And but here's the year before when we were completely baked. All right, now I'm just saying, this country's in quite a pickle. Conservatives govern without shame, and liberals shame without governing. This is it. Biden and Trump, the race is over. This is bad news for the country, I think. Very good news for people who build ramps on debate stages. They say, well, you know, shooting a dog is normal in some parts of the country. Yeah, so is fucking your sister. It doesn't make it right. So you're gonna debate Newsom.
We are.
You know he's taller and better looking. I try not to be too mean, but I mean, well, I don't try that hard. So when the sea levels rise, obviously we could lose, like, Venice. We could lose Florida. And who would know better about losing Florida? You can't call yourself a patriot of the United States. No other country will take us. Good to see you.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
So, okay. Welcome, Maestro. Welcome, Maestro. You really are the man of the hour, which may say more about the hour than it does about you. But, I mean, how does it feel to know that Trump thinks, according to his tweet yesterday, that you are highly overrated and your show is dead?
Do you have his tweet there? I read it the other day. It is just so funny. I mean, the mind of a third grader. It's just amazing to me that this boy from Rivervale, New Jersey, is now being tweeted at by the President of the United States. And, of course, he does this all the time. He accidentally watches my show almost every week. It's always by accident.
I know, he always just caught it just by accident. Yeah, so in one of your, I mean, I just love this book. The book is so hysterical. It's going to be read like the I Ching, where you just sort of open it at any place, and it just starts to make you laugh and give you the advice you need. So in one of your more withering riffs in the book, you said that America is at peak stupid, right?
Peak stupid, yes.
Peak stupid, right. So give us the short version of why America right now is peak stupid.
Well, I would say it's because we stopped educating people. I mean, you know, one of the issues I have with the left is that they, a lot of ignorance. I mean, people say to me all the time, you make fun of the left more than you used to. Yeah, because they're dumber than they used to be. And the right has gotten dumber, too. You know, if I had to find a reason why I thought I was right about doing this, it happened after October 7th. I mean, people demonstrating for Hamas, for Hamas. It's like rooting for the planes on 9/11.
Yeah. Well, I know
That's
you've
a
spoken
joke,
a lot about
for fuck's
that.
sake. I mean, come on, lighten up.
A lot
white
about
people.
that. So
The
okay.
diversity of the crowd, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I tell you, Aspen has really done a great job with that at this fucking Klan meeting of a town.
Okay,
I tell
all right.
you.
So this is where we pivot, okay? So I think we can agree that liberals are concussed with wokeness. We know that. But, I mean, which party do you think is actually more dangerous?
Definitely the Republicans. I mean, when people say you make fun of the...
See the diversity of the crowd.
we don't have to make a rally out of it, but we could. No, I mean, when they say you make fun of the left, well, yes, because, you know, they went nuttier. So obviously, so did the Republicans. But, you know, 5 years ago, nobody was demonstrating for Hamas and stuff like that. I'm gonna go where the funny is as a comedian. But that doesn't make me a Republican. They went nuttier, the left, and then they blame me for noticing it. If I notice how unproductive it is to make everything about identity politics, that doesn't make me a Republican. It makes me an honest broker. If I notice all the oversensitivity and the cancel culture and the victim culture and the pointless white self-loathing and all this kind of, you know, forcing complex ideas about race and gender on kids who can't spell yet. If I notice all that, it doesn't make me a Republican. I would never be a Republican for all the reasons I never have been. They're too religious. They're fiscal hypocrites who absolutely hate it when America spends money it doesn't have, except when they're in office, and then it's always completely okay. They're in denial about racism, which, yes, is still a thing. They think climate change is a hoax and the weather girl's tits are real.
Okay, so...
And they're always blaming... They're always blaming the underprivileged when they should be blaming the overprivileged. So and then...
That's all true.
A big applause from the overprivileged. I love that.
Okay. But here's the
and
thing.
then they added to that shitty mixtape, they don't believe in democracy anymore, and they threw their lot in with a sociopath named Donald Trump, who only thinks elections count when we win. So they do have a comfortable lead in being the bigger threat. But I don't hold my tongue for anybody. You can label me whatever you want. If you do something goofy, I don't care where you are on the spectrum, I'm going to call you out. I speak for a different group of people. I call them the normies, normal people who just want to get back to common sense. And if you do something stupid or say something stupid, I'm going to call you out. I speak for Democrats, independents, and non-drooling Republicans. That's my constituency.
So now you say in the book that, I think one of the missions of your comedy is to break through, people's political and cultural thought bubbles. Everyone has a sort of Praetorian guard of ideology in front of everything they think and say. Is it possible to actually change anyone's mind? I mean, have you ever changed anybody's mind?
No.
No, okay.
No, it's fun. I have, but not about politics. I don't think you can do it about politics. Right. It's very hard. I see this on my podcast several times when I've had somebody on who I know is a Trumper. I had Dana White on recently. I know he's for Trump. He's not the only one. And my podcast isn't even supposed to be political, but, Trump is everywhere. Sometimes you wind up talking about him, and I can see we start to talk about it, and it's like two dogs, and I stop it after 5 minutes, and I say, let's just talk about something else. Because I'm never going to bring you over to my point of view, and you're not going to come to the other point of view. Let's just talk about something else, and then we do, and we start laughing, and then we part friends. That's what we have to do in America. You can't talk, I say it all the time. You can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country.
But, it's interesting. Peggy Noonan wrote the other day something that interested me. She said, perhaps the two sides of America actually like hating each other. I mean, we're all trying to sort of bring everyone together. Perhaps there is something in the chemistry of the water at the moment where this hating seems to be what people want to do.
They do. Some of them
how do you explain
absolutely they do. People, this is something I hate. People hate me when I don't hate certain people.
Right.
Like you showed, was Ted Cruz, I think I heard at the beginning in this video?
Yes.
Okay, Ted Cruz, he's a United States Senator. When I have people like that on, Bill Maher, the Attorney General of the United States, had him on, I get emails from people who are like, basically their thought is, this guy, you had him on the show, when he walked out, why didn't you punch him in the face immediately? They hate me that I don't hate people.
Right.
That has got to stop.
Sure, but maybe people do want to keep hating. I mean, what is that about?
Yeah, it's fun because it fills the empty part of their soul. What they have to learn is you can't own or destroy anybody, no matter how powerful your tweets are.
Right. Well, let's talk about now the process of doing your show, which fascinates me, because I'm really interested about how you put it together. I know that you write two versions of your monologue, one when you're high and one when you're not. Not quite sure.
No, that's not right. No, I say...
Isn't that what you said?
No, what I said is there are... If I have an
I was trying to get to the bottom of that.
No, I say I have what I call a bicameral mind, like we have a bicameral legislature. If I have an important decision to make in my life, I think about it when I'm high, and I think about it when I'm sober, and then we will have... Those two bodies will have to agree, and then I will sign the legislation. They have to reconcile that, the high part, and it's actually very helpful to be high.
Okay. So
I'm high right now, ladies and gentlemen.
So take me through the funnel. I mean, I want to hear about the funnel of your week that winds up with the show. I mean, how does it start? Is this about you I mean, you're a voracious reader, I assume. I don't know where you get, where do you go for all your information? How does it start and that ends up in that funnel of the show?
Well, I do work my ass off all week. That's true. I mean, I work the book that we're talking about today. That the origin of that is the editorial I do at the end of the show, which is about a 10-minute piece that takes about, I don't know, at least 20 hours to put together over the week. I like doing a once-a-week show. I did a every night show for 9 years, Politically Incorrect. That was a fun show, but it wasn't as good, I think, as the show I do now because I have all week long to make it into exactly what I want to make. And there's I start on Monday with the first draft, and Tuesday, second draft, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that is my little pleasure. That is my happy place, making something into a work of art in that form as much as I can, that has no extra words, no extra paragraphs, is always driving toward a point, is always surprising to people, and with laughs.
Right.
I say in the introduction, I've told my writers, you can be bad, I can edit that out. Don't ever be earnest. Don't ever make it like this issue is more important to you than anybody. That's just gross. And be funny. Yeah. We're here to entertain people and surprise people. I say it in the introduction also. People who say, you broke the story. I don't break any stories. I'm not an investigative journalist. I break new ways of looking at stories. That's what I'm trying to do. Right. So that's what I spend a lot of my time on. But the show does kill me every week. I mean, it's a labor of love, but it is a labor.
Yeah. So you've got no patience, I know, for deplatforming people, and you've said that a lot. But do you draw any line with your own guests? I mean, are there guests that you say no to if their name comes up?
Only if they're boring, or I wouldn't have David Duke on.
Yeah.
I don't know what he can add to the conversation.
Right.
But Ted Cruz, Bill Maher. I mean, when they're mad at me for having people like that on, I mean, Bill Maher is somebody I refer to as as good as it gets Republican. And what that means is, after the last election, he full-throatedly came out and said Trump lost the election. That's as good as it gets with Republicans, and that's quite a minority of Republicans nowadays. Mitch McConnell said it. Liz Cheney said it, Mitt Romney said it, Adam Kissinger said it, a few others, who just, Mike Pence, not my favorite Republican or person, but did the right thing. That's as good as it gets. If you can't talk to those people, you're just abandoning the country to half the people who are even worse, who are going to vote for Trump this next time, and they are, and he very likely will win. And then what are we going to do? I think we should keep the dialogue open. I'm certainly going to.
Well, that's good.
Thank you, one guy.
But we've seen this unbelievable sort of aphasia that seems to have set in, where, Trump goes to Washington and they literally line up these, like absolute moral amoeba to sort of turn themselves around and kiss his ring. It's an amazing thing to see. It's like a cult. Do you have any sort of explanation of how this can have happened to so many formerly, it seems sensible people who even said, as you said, after January the 6th, that this wasn't...
part of it, the left has to own. They are aggressively anti-common sense. The Democrats keep running on this one idea, saying to the American people, you can't possibly think you can do worse than Donald Trump. And they keep saying, yes, we can. Yeah. Yes, we can. And I understand that. I do. I would never vote for Donald Trump, and as I said, I think the Republicans are worse. But yeah, when it's funny, when I talk to, my friends around my age, 40, and they are always bitching to me about their kids who are like in their 20s, and they're like super uber woke, and they're driving their parents crazy. And everything is like, you don't get it, Mom. That's old thinking. And I'm like, don't get what? Abolish the police, tear down statues of Lincoln, maybe give communism another shot, get rid of the Border Patrol, get rid of capitalism. White supremacy has never been worse. Gender is always just a social construct. It's okay to have penises in the women's swimming pool in women's prisons. Okay, no, it's not that I'm old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
Well, okay, so So you're very cantankerous.
When people
obviously.
talk about Trump, that's what they should be talking about. Like, why do people? Because a lot of conservatives say to me, "What you don't get about Trump is we don't like him either."
Right. Yeah, they just hate the other stuff more.
And I don't understand. I don't blame them because a lot of it is closer to their own home. Like the things you hate about Trump, democracy, I understand why that's the biggest issue. But a lot of people, it's kind of vague. Ukraine's very far away. But, you know, the stuff about family and race and gender, it's very close to their own home.
Yeah, and yet you could argue that it's the octogenarians who are really causing most of the problems at the moment. I mean, you know, you're quite sort of tough on the millennials, but you know they have to deal with all these octogenarians who refuse to leave the stage, who've left them bankrupt, who've taken all their social security. So there is a lot of angst there.
Actually, the older people this time are for Biden.
Yeah,
this is the first time in many, many elections where the older crowd, that's what was my editorial Friday night, was talking about this. For the first time, they are lining up behind Biden more than the Republican. You know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean to the millennials or the Gen Zs, but you know, when I see them with their Queers for Palestine banners,
I know that's the one that really
like,
gets to you.
I'm out. Okay.
I know. So. I mean, we know, you know, you've written in the book about how people say you've changed, but, you know, you haven't changed. It's these other things that have changed. But have you ever considered that, in fact, fewer Americans are getting married, fewer Americans are practicing
I
religion?
started that.
Yeah, right? Weed use is way up. In other words, the country's becoming more like you.
It is. Less religious.
So
yes.
what do you make of that?
I think it's fantastic. I never am looking, you know, I argue for a living, and
Right.
people think I like it. I would love to never have to argue with anybody. I would love it if everybody agreed with me right away. And I would think that would be perfect. I'm not looking for a fight, and I certainly never say anything just to be provocative or to cause a fight or to cause a controversy. It's what I think. I mean, my bond with my audience has always been that I don't pull a punch. You might not like me all the time. You might not agree with everything I say, but you can have complete faith that I'm going to say what I really think. And very often it's things that other people are just afraid to say or are thinking themselves.
Yeah,
and
no,
so they just
you say that the thing that people are thinking, it is absolutely
Yeah,
true.
and they just like to hear someone else say it and go, oh, I guess I'm not crazy.
Yeah. You know, in the new Steve Martin documentary, he says that his breakout success in the 70s happened because people got tired of political comedy and were ready, you know, for and his brand, as he put it, of pure silliness. And, you know, political comedy has now reigned quite a long time, really, since the sort of GW time, really. I mean, since the Bush years, it's already been, the big focus has been political comedy. Do you ever worry that people will disengage from political comedy? I mean, I have to say that one of the favorite jokes you make in your book is when you say that the French's idea of fast food is a snail. Okay. So, and that to me was just like pure sort of just silly comedy.
Right. I mean, I don't remember the context of it. I'm sure there was a reason we did that joke.
It was part of a rant.
Yes. I think we also said something about when they cooked Joan of Arc, she was still pink in the middle.
That's so horrible.
It was 1431. I think we could really too soon, Bill. Too soon for Joan of Arc. Wow. What was the question? Sorry.
It doesn't matter. We've done it. Let's go back to your start, right? Because way back, was there a specific moment when you realized that you were funny, right? And when did you first understand that you had this power of sort of wit to puncture received wisdom?
I don't know if I realized it was a power, but I definitely wanted to be a comedian before I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in a house with funny parents. My father was in news. He was in radio news. So news was in my house and humor was in my house. It was almost inevitable I was going to mix them and do what I wound up doing. But I was just too shy to ever say it to anybody. But yes, I was not 10 years old when I was thinking about this and really never considered anything else.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to play, I've got a clip of your first appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny
Lord.
Carson.
Oh, God.
And you were just 26 years old. I mean, let's just take a look at that.
Oh, Jesus.
My mother is Jewish and my father is Catholic. That is the truth. I was raised Catholic formally, although I must say the Jewish mind comes out even in the Catholic system. Give you an example, we used to go into confession, and I would bring a lawyer in with me. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I think you know Mr. Cohen.
Guess I'll never live that one down.
You look about 12 in that.
Yeah, well, I was a child star, Tina.
Yeah, well, there you go. So what's the kind of drive that you have? It's a demonic drive, really, to keep doing stand-up, because even on your most kind of relaxed times, you're actually on the road doing stand-up everywhere.
Yeah, I may stop doing it after this year. I'm doing a special at the end of the year. It's always tough to be on the road after you do a special. People think you're going to just do what they just saw on TV, or you have to start with a new act, which is what I do, but then they don't come anyway because they think it's the old act. So I'm probably going to take next year off. I might go back to it. I don't know. I love it, but it is like playing the cello. Mm-hmm. You gotta be in shape all the time. You just can't pick it up. And the podcast I do is like really doing well. I love the show. I mean, they'll have to kick me out of real time
right.
because the thing about that is that it's new every week. Every week it's a new set of stories. It's a new editorial to write. It's new guests, new tweets coming from Trump. and so I hope to do that as long as they'll have me. But I could take a break from stand-up. I mean, I will miss it. I was just in Vegas this weekend. I loved it. It's so much fun. But it's, I don't know. I don't want to die on stage.
No, well, I'm also fascinated because, in the pantheon of comedy, the list of miserable comedians, right, is very long, right? W.C. Fields, Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Peter Sellers, and I must say that all the cartoonists at the New Yorker were the gloomiest bunch of people that you could ever hope to meet.
Very funny, yes.
But you always say you've had this marvelous Leave It to Beaver childhood. So it's interesting to me where the iconoclasm, where that edge comes from, because that usually in comedians comes from this kind of rage of some kind.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I was always interested, again, because my father was talking politics. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it at home, or they at least talked about it with each other. I don't think I was invited into the conversation. It's so funny, kids today, I notice when I'm at the houses of people, young kids are invited into the adult conversation, which I am very amused by, because if I ever did that, when in my era, boomers, we were not invited into we certainly wouldn't invite ourselves. If I walked in and said, you know what I think about Vietnam? Get the fuck out of here, what you think about Vietnam. Would never happen. But it was in my mind. So I don't know if it was edgy so much, it's just that's a subject that I wanted to talk to, that I could be the guy who was commenting on the parade as it passed. And of course, wanting to be a comedian, my hero growing up was Johnny Carson. Right. And I'd watch him in the monologue every night doing topical material and making fun of what was going on in the news. And I just thought, this is the greatest way to make a living. Of course, when you start out, you don't really have the gravitas to do that. When you're 26 years old like that and you're doing political material, the audience kind of looks at you like, what do you know about it? And they're kind of right. Right. As you grow older, you grow into it more. And you're able to comment on things and say, oh, well, he's seen a few things, and we're going to listen to him now about this. But I was always trying. It just at the beginning, yes, it was a little more challenging.
But you didn't have that sort of the anger that fuels so many of the comedians I mentioned.
Well, I don't know if I still anger. There's this cognitive dissonance that goes on in this country where people think it's just so horrible. People come up to me in restaurants all the time in Los Angeles, nice restaurants. Bill, what are we going to do? And I'm like, look around, finish your $800 meal. Why don't you do that? Is life really that horrible? Now, Trump may get elected again, and he may blow up the world on day one. Or he might just sit there for 4 years and eat cheeseburgers and call into Fox and Friends every morning. I don't know. He's completely unpredictable. I'm not going to lose my nervous system this time. I did it once. I'm not going to do it again. When it happens, wake me, but that's it. But until then, just realize how lucky you are and how good your life is. I just walked around Aspen. It's not that horrible out there in America. Okay?
Well, that is certainly
It's
true.
not corny or conservative to say you're lucky to live in this country right now, and you should be aware of that.
And yet, so Marjorie Taylor Greene has called for a national divorce, right?
Yes.
Yes, so as the country's de facto couples therapist, how do you see this rising rancor playing out, and who gets you in the divorce?
Well, let's not get divorced, is what
Yeah.
the first thing I
Yeah.
would say. This is a terrible idea. We have to learn to talk together again, to sit together again, to mingle. People who don't agree with each other should mingle. I mean, if I ask this crowd, any Trump people here in this crowd? I bet you there are, but they're too intimidated to even speak up or raise their hand. That's not a good way to go. And it would be the same way to NASCAR rally. If I asked any Biden people here, this is not a way to do it, to operate America like a prison yard where we have to be each in our own tribe. We have to talk together, mingle together. We're all too in our own bubbles, in our own media silos. And that's not the way we bring this country together. And I don't want a national divorce. Oh, you hear a lot of this talk. Civil war, let's do this thing. Let's not. Sounds fun, you know, but it's a little impractical. It's not like the first Civil War. We were neatly divided on two sides of the country. We're all marbled in with each other now. There's 4 million Trump voters in California. I think my dry cleaners are behind enemy lines.
Sorry.
You have to remember that America is a family, and the definition of family is people who hate each other without resorting to violence.
Okay, so you were one of the very first people to warn that Trump would never concede an election, right?
Yes, I was the one
were the
for
one.
years, and no one would.
You kept
Before he
saying
got
it.
elected the first time, and they were all
Yes,
laughing
were.
at me.
I
You
remember.
smoke too much pot. I smoke just the right amount of pot.
Right. So, what should the nation be prepared to do if he declares himself the winner in November, regardless of the outcome?
That is not that's above my pay grade.
Right.
I don't know. I said it all along that he was never going to concede power, and everybody laughed at me. Now it's your problem. But what I will guarantee is this: whatever happens in the election in November, he's going to show up on Inauguration Day. That's my birthday, January 20th. He's going to show
He will
up.
show up,
I
yeah.
promise you. It's going to be a sitcom where 2 people show up for the same job. And then good luck with that.
Right.
Because he's had 4 years to fix the mistakes that allowed him to fail last time when he tried to overthrow the government of the United States. I mean, last time he counted on something that didn't happen. He counted on Republicans, just because they have an R next to their name, to be with him. And the truth is, we found out there are a lot of good Republicans in this country. You may not agree with them. Get over that. People are from different backgrounds. They have different values. They're brought up differently than you are. Doesn't mean they're bad people. And people like that John Rafsenberger in Georgia, who was asked for 11,000 votes and said, "Sir, I can't. I voted for you, but we did the count, and then we recounted, and I can't just find you votes. You lost the election." Again, good as it gets, Republicans. I don't know if we're going to have that this time, because he's had 4 years to replace those people with his ass lickers.
Yeah.
And God knows what they're going to do.
Right. Well, the Supreme Court...
Have a good
of course-
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Enjoy it out there while you can.
The Supreme Court, of course, is now poised to announce the decision, right, on Trump's immunity. Should the president have any immunity, any king-like immunity?
Of course not. That's ridiculous. And it's also ridiculous that they've taken now 117 days, something they could have figured out in one.
Right.
I mean, they handled the Democrats. I mean, I tore Merrick Garland a new asshole about a month ago at one of my editorials. It'll be in the next book. He should have had him in court by now. They had 4 years to do that, and they let them run out the clock.
They did, it's true. It's
So
absolutely
ridiculous.
true. So the debate is 4 days away. What advice do you have for Biden? What advice do you have for Trump? How would you...
Trump does not need advice. He's going to be, first of all, I think it's going to be less interesting than we think. We're all looking for some great cataclysmic event. I think they're both going to be exactly what they are. First of all, Biden, we're just looking for proof of life. And he is benefiting, I think, from low expectations. All he's got to do, first of all, I said this back in September when we got back from the strike. My first editorial was about, I called it Ruth Bader Biden. He's going to be Ruth Bader Biden. She did not quit when she should have. He should have gotten out. I still think it's not too late for him to get out. I think odds are he's going to lose, and any other 50-ish centrist Democrat could win walking away. Not counting on that. But he also is a guy, I said at the time, and I will reiterate, I still believe, he can do the job. He just can't run for the job. And perception is everything in this country. If people perceive him as too old, that's what matters. But he hasn't lost his marbles. He's fine. He can do. The presidency is conducted in the Oval Office in small groups. He's a smart guy who's seen it all with advisors. Let more energetic people go out and carry out the policies, and you just give us the wisdom, oh great elder. He can do that, and he can do the debate. It'll be tough, but he's preparing right now, and Trump's going to be Trump. And, I think we're going to come away, and nobody's mind is going to be changed. He's not going to poop his pants on stage or do something ridiculous. Trump will do things that are ridiculous because that's who he is, a ridiculous, insane person. And we're all going to go back to our corners.
Okay, well, final question, Bill. So if Biden wins, should he pardon Trump?
Great question. I didn't even think of that until recently when people started to talk about that. I mean, we're both old enough to remember when Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon. Look, presidents have to make these kind of really difficult decisions. Another one like that was Obama, after he guided us through what it could have been the greatest financial crisis we ever had, which is 2008 and the collapse of the housing market and the Great Recession. And a lot of people said, you got to put those Wall Street bastards in jail. And he said, you know what? If I do that, the whole thing is going to crash down. Really tough decision, because a lot of people hate you for it, and a lot of people hated Ford for pardoning Nixon. Probably in both those instances, the country was better off. He took the heat, and probably that's what we're going to have to do with Trump.
Okay, good last thought, Bill. So I want to thank you so much. You're a course corrector for all of us. You should know that you are my write-in candidate in November. Okay. And
I refuse, but thank you very much for the vote of confidence.
I want to thank you so much for bringing your A game to the Aspen Ideas Festival
It's
today.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, everybody.